Kept you waiting, huh?
Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. We're back in the building. It's been a long time we kept you waiting.
4 months or so.
4 months or so. But we're back in here. And, we got myself, Arze Poetic. We also got Three Kings, as expected.
Hello.
But we also have two new guests that are, well, they've been guests. They've been part of the team, but now they're actually popping up on the cast. So we got Chains.
Yes, sir. That's me.
And then we got Joaqs.
Yo.
And these are the homies. They've been in it since day one, and we're always
behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. So we're glad to finally have them on and
incorporate them into our podcast family here and have their.
We just had to get in on it. I mean, we've watched from a distance. It's our time now.
Time to chime in.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is appropriate because today's topic actually was brought up by Chains here.
Yeah.
We wanted to discuss hot takes.
Ooh.
For those unfamiliar with the phrase, essentially it's an unpopular opinion. And I think a full disclosure, we're not trying to be edgy or anything like that. We just we want a place where we can maybe discuss some of our more unpopular takes, but also show that we're very well aware of the gaming landscape and everything that goes on and general opinions, and we'll try to dissect each other's perspectives here.
Yeah.
It's just the open discussion, I mean, it is controversial opinions. Things might get heated. Things might get emotional. But that's fine. We're all friends here. So just so everyone knows, if you sense any anger from one of us, it's okay. We're all friends at the end of the day.
It's all love and family.
Don't worry. Right. Things might get heated.
And if you feel any type of way, you can show that.
Yeah, let us know.
Or let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Show us support if needed. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And what we're just basically trying to do is take our conversations we normally have on the party chat on the PlayStation 5 and bring them right here to the podcast. So this is also one we talked about for a while on there as well, which we're excited to bring to you guys. And it's just a little intro to it. We're not covering too much, but it's definitely going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and so we'll see. We'll likely have this as a recurring topic, and depending on how long these go, we have some other issues, or not issues, but topics in the queue. So let's roll with it. So far, first up to bat, we got Three Kings here with his take.
Oh man,
you want to?
Yeah. So this one here is a two-parter, but we'll start with the first part, which is my personal hot take would be, and this is going to be wildly controversial in my opinion, I thoroughly, shockingly enjoyed the Resident Evil TV show adaptation on Netflix that just came out a couple months ago. I thought it did well, and I'm OG Resident Evil. I thought they did a good job on introducing characters, and the whole storyline to me was I really enjoyed it. I was sad to see it got canceled. I thought they could have did more with it, and I loved that they left it on the cliffhanger they did. I know everybody complains about how main character, spoiler alert by the way, if you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure everybody by now has seen it, but the main character, I know everybody says she's very what were they saying? They're saying she's very not nagging. Somebody help me.
Just like
whining, or not whining, but putting herself in these situations or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I know a couple times I was shouting at the TV, like, "Man, what are you doing? Don't go back." Don't do that.
Just doing the dumb decisions. Like,
yeah, but personally, me, I enjoyed the whole series. I did not binge watch it. Joaqs, I believe, binge watched it. And I really thought that they did a great job on execution. I thought I was interested in the story. At first, I was kind of like, maybe I'm not liking the whole futuristic deal. I know they've tried that before in the past, and with the movies, the motion pictures, and I was a fan of the first one, made in 2001 too. I can't remember what year, but that one I thought they did okay. That wasn't like amazing, but it was okay. So, and then after that, it went downhill quick. Now, even the second one actually was pretty good. But go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask, so we set the stage a little bit for your opinion. feeling how you do with the Netflix adaptation, why don't you give the audience like your background with the series? What games did you play? What games didn't you play? Or which ones you really love? What do you love about them?
I really loved, and this bases why I like the TV series so much is because I started with Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 1 I went back later on and played, so I wasn't initially introduced then, but number 2 I was introduced to shortly after it came out. And me being young, I'm not that old, but me being a little younger, I didn't quite enjoy it as much. I was more scared of it than I was like excited about it. But now going back and playing it, I played it again as a teenager, and I love it. But Resident Evil 2, I did 3. Didn't finish all the way 3. Got to the end, but didn't really finish it. I did Resident Evil Outbreak, which was a great one. I don't know if anybody remembers playing that. That was actually it's a really good one. If you don't know what that one is, what Resident Evil that is, you should look it up. Resident Evil Outbreak. They do a bunch of gameplay on it. People do walkthroughs on it. It's a really good game. Anyways, I can go all day on that one. I did Resident Evil Code Veronica, that's one that I would love for them to Code Veronica X. Sorry, that I would love for them to adapt into a TV series. To be honest with you, I think it could hold a lot of weight with
there's
that.
There's a lot of like history or
there's multiple stories in that one though, and I love, for me personally, I know this is going a little off the rails here, but what is it? What is that TV show called? The zombie one on Netflix. Something. I don't know. Anyways, they do it where I love when they have multiple stories converging on one at the end or whatever. However that's called. I know that's a type of style. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you kind of like a little Tarantino flip where it's like Tarantino movies. There's usually like these overlapping stories, and then usually like at some point everything just meshes. and it all makes sense at the end basically. But so Code Veronica X, and then I'm trying to remember. Then I went back and played 0, but that wasn't until later, and then you get a kind of feel for it. I played a little bit of the number 2 remake. The third person remake. I believe it was like 2018 or around there.
Yeah, I played that one. I didn't know it was a demo, and I downloaded the whole thing, and it took forever. And then it's like one like part of it.
Yeah,
and I was like, what the hell is this, man? Yeah. I wanted it to be the full. I thought it was a full game. I spent hours downloading it. Yeah, you don't know. PlayStation hooks you up like that.
Sometimes,
And then lastly, I played, not lastly, but I did also play, which I shockingly liked, was the, I'm going to mess this up, Resident Evil, the one where they're in South Africa.
Oh, 5?
5.
Where you, Chris, and like Shiva?
Shiva. I don't know why I like that concept, that Army of 2 type concept.
Yeah. Where
you have a partner and you're going, because then at that time I think we played that a lot, right, Joaqs?
We played it co-op,
yeah, a lot. Like we would change off, and then you can, I think, even customize the weapons you had, right?
Yeah. I think there were some upgrades,
attachments and stuff. I don't know why.
And then you got to jump in a boat, go to different islands.
Like, that was cool. Yeah. See, that was that. I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought that was a good take on it. And they should have done. I know they released a game where you could do that recently, where it was like Resident Evil something, and I thought it was an online thing. I'll have to look into that, but
I think there's like a multiplayer one they're coming out with. It's like Resident Evil RE something, but I think that's more of like a competitive, like you're fighting against players or stuff. I don't know.
And I know Albert Wesker was big in the beginning of the games. He was really big for me, and I got to see the big development of the character in Code Veronica X. And he was like, that's when I got to see the whole character develop, because like I said, I went back later after that to play 0 and 1 and stuff, so I didn't really know his character that much then, until I played and got to see like his superpowers, all that, because he was infected with the virus and stuff like that.
I just side note, I enjoyed 5 very much. I played that with the homie Alex. We did the online co-op. Had a blast with it. But at that point, I had only played number 4, and that was my first Resident Evil. And so seeing Wesker be on some Matrix like Neo shit, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Who is this guy?
Yeah, I was like, what is this? There's obviously some history, but
well, funny thing is in Resident Evil Code Veronica X, you could be him. There's a part where if you complete the game, there's a time trial one where you could be him or any other characters in the game and run through a time trial type deal, and each character has a different set of weapons. So I think his name was Steve, I think, in the game. I can't remember the dude's name, but the guy protagonist in there. And then Chris, you could be the brother, and then, Claire, and then Wesker, you could be him too, and that was cool. I thought that was awesome. Nice. And you would run through, obviously time trial, you got to hurry up and get through the map.
Right.
And he was just overpowered as hell, and I loved it. It was awesome. But just to kind of go back to it, so that's kind of my background on that. And I thought that they conveyed that really well in the TV series on Netflix. I know Netflix does a research, and I was confident and I was excited because I was like, man, I've seen what they've done with like, for example, they're doing a lot of these murder mystery ones, or like the ones about serial killers, and they're on the money with the audition or the casting of these characters that look almost identical, spitting image of these real life people that they portray, and then even they get them as much so invested to where they sound just like, it's crazy. It's such a mind trip. And so I thought the same was going for the Resident Evil miniseries, and I thought they did a good job at that, even though they changed some dynamics there as far as
because the characters weren't necessarily
spot on.
Like,
I know everybody had
the original, right?
And I know everybody was like, oh, the ethnicity changes on some of the characters. I didn't mind that. I really thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think it's like a remake. Well, I mean, we don't even.
That's a
Don't get political.
Yeah. So try not to. No, and I'm not. I mean, like I said, when they do that, I don't mind. I have no issues with any of that.
Yeah, as long as the performance is there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they get the like the vibe and the feel of the character. I think that's most important.
Yeah, and then I followed along with it very well. I think that the graphics for it, as far as like the zombies, was well done. The visual effects. I don't know where the hell I'm going with this. The visual effects I thought were really well done. I loved, if you haven't seen it, sorry, I loved the alligator, the crocodile alligator. No, I think it's crocodile. Towards the end episodes, I think the final 2 episodes, it was like the enemy there. It was like the big monster there. They executed that perfectly. I thought that I couldn't even tell. Like, it was so realistic the way it looked. It was awesome. The gunplay, that was pretty cool. The whole finding a cure for the virus was awesome as well. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. And I think that I don't know, I trust them, and we'll see about HBO and how HBO, and I think it's coming out on HBO Max, The Last of Us.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting, because, for those of you that don't know, the general consensus online is that they really dropped the ball on the series.
They butchered it.
I saw YouTube comments and saying when are they going to get people that played the games to do these things, and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to hear someone who has a pretty rich background with the series. Like, it sounds like the majority of the games, be all in on it. And, not to get too into it, but I had a similar thing with Cowboy Bebop. In that I was a super fan of the original. It was one of my favorite anime shows, and I really enjoyed the live action adaptation, but the internet shat on it.
Wow, that's interesting.
Really?
I think there was a questionable thing at the end, but it was also a cliffhanger, so we didn't really give it a chance to develop and see what direction it would have gone. But I thought the performances and everything...
And that was Netflix, right?
It was Netflix, and I thought, yes, it's different, but at the end of the day, I think we don't want... for a remake, or in the sense of a adaptation, to be a whole different reboot and things. We want something new and exciting and different, and of course we want it to be somewhat faithful because we love the originals so much, but we also want to be entertained and surprised. And I feel like it might as well just be like a HD remaster if it's not doing something different. But I mean, Joaqs, since you are the other one that watched the Netflix Resident Evil show, why don't you give us your take, but also your background on the games?
I mean, I watched them play the games. I didn't really do a thorough playthrough of the games myself, but I think the show made for good TV. Because I binged the whole season, so...
Yeah. Now, was it good TV or was it just entertainment?
Okay, it was entertainment. I'm not gonna lie.
I think there's a distinction right there.
Why do you break down the...
Yeah. Well, but, I mean, yeah, I get that point. But also, he had the idea. He knows the name. He can associate the name Resident Evil with the video games, and he knows of the concept. And like he said, the man's played or watched us play and maybe have partaked a couple times. He played Resident Evil 4 or 5. You know, he knows the whole concept of it, but you really truly thought that it was just entertainment, or did you I mean, you know the characters, Albert Wesker.
Yeah,
you know.
Albert Wesker, but how they portrayed him as like having multiple. I mean, spoiler.
Oh,
alert,
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I don't know how closely to the storyline that
Okay,
follows,
so stuff like that. So that's great. So you said that in there they portrayed some of the characters a little different, and that was one thing that a lot of people were talking about too, to my knowledge, was that they played with that a little bit. I was confused.
Wait, so you're saying the criticism was that they did too much, like with
well, they didn't. They understand that was confusing,
like
and a lot of I mean, you hit the nail on the head pretty firmly there when you said a lot of people said, you know, when are they going to get people that have played video games, played the games through and through, actually step up and direct a series, a movie, you know, whatever. But I think that it is fun to play with a tweak a little bit, just a little bit. As far as the Albert Wesker thing, I forgot about that. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going back on my opinion on this, but that is one thing that
rubbed you the wrong way.
I feel like that right there probably could have been eliminated and not really added to, because everything else was flawless in my opinion. Yeah. Even the fact that like he worked there, you know, his daughters were, you know, kind of privileged. They had to move into like the umbrella housing. Like that was all cool. Even the evil lady that owned Umbrella, she was like their president or whatever. She was trying to find something to live forever, I think it was. God, it feels like it was forever I watched this. Okay. It was like a couple months ago or whatever, like the
background into like the research.
All that. It was great to see that, because with the games, you just get, it's zombies, you know, an outbreak. And yeah, they have, you know, William Birkin who, you know, turns into something. He's experimenting with stuff. He hits himself with a needle. Dunzo, he's starting to, you know, change and all that. And they have a bunch of mad scientist type characters in there, and there's a reason behind it. That's why I appreciate it so much. Also, the other hidden gems, like, you know, Outbreak, Resident Evil Outbreak was, you know, like I said, I hold that very high. That's up there with 2 for me. So number Resident Evil 2, and then Resident Evil Outbreak. For the PS2, 3. I think it was 3. I gotta look it up. I thought those two, that one right there was really good because they had stories to the characters when the outbreak hit. So I like diving into that part of it. But like I said, for the most part, everything was executed pretty good. I wouldn't say flawlessly. I'm sorry I said that. Everything, to me, since I played the game, and like you said, I have a rich, I guess, background in playing them. As a very true fan, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
And so, Joaqs, your overall, I mean, you said it was entertaining.
It was entertaining and made for good TV. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but were the zombies always that fast?
No, they were not. They were always slow and, you know, getting around to attacking you. I'm pretty sure you can run right around it. It was more or less the creatures that were really scary and like, the mutations, the T virus ones, or like
the alligator that you mentioned.
The alligator, with Nemesis, you know, it was always the bigger character. It was never the zombies that were supposed to be scary. But like I said, I mean, the futuristic thing was kind of something else that I kind of.
So break that down, because I mean, I haven't watched it. James hasn't
watched it. Both you. Okay, I'm talking to you.
So when you say futuristic, are you saying like it's in like?
It's like very like further into the
like
the
cyberpunk-esque.
What was it like 20? Actually, it was like 2030 or no? I think it started at 2021 and it was like 2030 was the.
Okay, so things are a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, in advance in the future, where the population is completely wiped out and there's just zombies, and then there's small factions.
Okay.
So they've completely kind of tweaked it a little bit more than usual, but Umbrella runs a lot of the safe areas that people are housed in. They control everything, basically.
Right.
And then her sister ends up her twin sister or whatever ends up part of Umbrella. Huh?
Who's twin sister?
Twin sister, the Albert Whisker's daughters.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways, I'm not about to break down the whole series.
Yeah.
But basically, I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
And Joaqs here enjoyed it. But as far as you go, Ezra, what's your history besides that? You said you played 5?
Yeah, so the first one I played was number 4, and this was back on the GameCube. And so I know that that's a big shift for the series because, the first ones, the first 3 being fixed camera angles and this certain style to them. 4 is the one where they made the shift into a third-person shooter, which, of course, it still had the horror vibe and, Resident Evil feel, as far as I understood. But, it gave you more agency as the player to, place shots and fight back. But it was still also restricted in that, you couldn't shoot while moving and things like that. So it was still very tense. You still had resource management and that whole inventory system. So I really, really loved 4. I think it, at the time and even today, I'm excited for the remake they're doing for it because it looks really clean. But they kept a lot of those core gameplay elements. Like, for instance, I believe you still can't move while aiming and stuff. Or if you can, it's very slow. Which, because these games were designed with a certain framework. We were talking previously about Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes. Just a sidebar, that was a remake that released on the GameCube of the first Metal Gear Solid, in which they added first-person camera mode, twinkleizer gun, and the ability to hang off of ledges and drop down, which essentially broke the whole map design, enemy routes and placement, and it made the game incredibly easy if you took advantage of those things, and sort of broke the intensity of sneaking through this facility with literally nothing. So to go back to Resident Evil, 4 was my first real exposure. I mean, I played number 1 or 2 at a relative's house briefly, but I wouldn't count that. And then I did 5 with the homie Alex.
The co-op online.
Co-op online, had a blast with that. Story was kind of whatever.
Yeah, the story was a little meh.
And the Sheva character, I think that was her only appearance.
Yeah, she had
so but ending was pretty fun. I had a really funny moment where they had all these QTE moments where you had to press a button at the right time. I remember it was there, and that was at the height of those of developers using those mechanics. But I remember having this incredibly funny moment. We're in the airplane or something, and we're doing this fight. I totally missed the button, but I thought I hit it, and then out of nowhere, then I fall off the plane. It was it was hilarious. Yeah, but
one thing, not trying to interrupt you too much, but one thing I did forget to mention was as a person that loves to play the games and loves the whole franchise, something I did really, really appreciate in the series on Netflix is the fact that they added small little subtle I don't want to say Easter eggs, but shouts out to the OG games,
certain
or characters,
name drops, or
and then or something was written on something, and I was like, oh, that's funny. It's little Easter egg things from the original series, as far as 0, 1, and 2, maybe even 3. And you were like, oh, okay, now I see. It was pretty. I smiled very hard. I can't remember. There was a scene where they go into the daughters, the 2 daughters. One of them goes into the other one's room, and then I think it was next to her bed or something like that on a shelf or something. It had something written that only people that knew the video games would know, and that's cool. That's tight. They're paying attention, and I think that kind of overshadowed any of the the triple Weskers or anything where there was multiple ones of him.
4 of them.
Some stuff like that, because they broke them up into he had 4 different clones,
which was not
never
a thing.
Never.
I see.
Never.
Okay.
I know they tried it with the big pictures, the big movies. On the fifth, they were running out of steam. They were running out of ideas, and I think one of them they tried that with. But yeah, I don't understand that
But
part.
all these little, like, I guess you could call them Easter eggs, or just sort of like homages to the original.
Yeah.
And that, like, you catch these little details as a fan, you're like, that's cool, and it kind of gives you that warm feeling of like,
they paid attention.
They paid attention.
Yeah. It's like someone listening to your feelings. It's like
on
your stories.
Like, yes.
They'll comment on your stuff.
You heard that. You didn't just
me.
listen, but you heard.
Or like later on, you'll tell us, or they'll tell your story. I'm like, you're like, oh, you were listening.
Recall the details.
You'll exactly. Yeah. So I think that they executed on that end where they knew what to add in to have them have that. The true fans like, okay, it is a little different.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly more than a little, but for them adding that in there, and for the most part, they stuck very true to the characters, and they even added interesting. I mean, you could say a new path to how that character got to that point.
Yeah.
It didn't start off with Wesker being evil. It's like, oh, holy hell, he has 4 clones. One of them's evil. The rest of them are kind of different personalities type deal. But I loved it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'll I want to take your. I definitely am taking your opinion. And recommendations, and I do want to check it out. I do also want to play more of them and get that backstory. But Chains, I mean, those were the games I played. I played a little bit of the 7VR, but that was pretty much it. I want to go back to the older ones. I tried the Resident Evil 2 demo, and I was a big fan because I loved 4 so much, and it felt like that. That's
I see.
But Chains, you did play. I don't know if you played. Did you play originals, the remakes? What's your?
Well, I will say there's been a reason why I've been remaining a little bit on the quiet side. I am not too well versed in much Resident Evil. I've never played the OG games at all. The only games that I've really
the disrespect
tapped into was the Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't know what year it came out, but I played that one a little bit. I haven't put that many hours in, but I will say, even with the little time I have invested into it, I did enjoy it. I thought it was an excellent experience. I really enjoyed it. And I've played a little bit of the 7 Biohazard.
Oh, yeah.
I played a little bit of that, also enjoyed it. But I will say that I do enjoy kind of the lore of Resident Evil more than I really care to actually play them.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched plenty of like content about all the original games and the remakes. Yeah, and it's like it's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I guess not enough to actually go back and play the actual games. But I do enjoy watching it. But I find it interesting to kind of go into your guys' points, because I do know that in a way there's basically 2 types of like Resident Evil mainline games, whether they do like a horror focused things like the original ones 1 through 3.
Yeah.
But I know that when they went to 4, that it was pretty polarizing because it started to lean more into like an action shooter.
Yeah.
And that's where I fell off, really.
I think I find it interesting because I might be wrong on this, but from what I know, the 5th installment of Resident Evil in South Africa was actually very, very polarizing because some fans, I don't know if it was a majority or not, felt that they almost completely branched away from the original formula, and they fully leaned into like an action shooter type. So because I remember seeing you guys play that when I was a kid, and I remember specifically, I think it was like the ending of it where it's like a volcano going off and things just getting wild. And now looking back at it and seeing the original games and all that, I'm like, they completely broke away. Like, it's
not only that, you got to mention the fact that it's a meme at this point, but there's a part in that volcano where Chris punches a boulder. He's like trying to move this boulder, and then they have to hit the button, and he literally just punches the boulder.
He was stacked though. In that game, they made him see, and that's kind of where also, like, and you said they kind of went full fledged with that, and they turned the notches off at that point, and or broken to the upward. And
because 6 was the one that had like I remember like 5 there was a lot of that like polarizing detail, and I remember that, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, mainly because of the co-op experience.
Yeah.
But I think they broke the notch, but then 6, I don't know if any of you guys played season 6, but that's the one where it went like fully like
just out of this
action
world,
movie,
out of this realm.
like no horror whatsoever.
Wait, was 6? Wait, which one was the one where they were in the house? Which one was that one? Was that
was
the one where they're in the house running around against the family or whatever?
Oh,
that
was
was
7.
That was the more recent.
That was
one.
actually more of a, from what I understood, and I did play a little
that
bit
played
of it.
back towards the original.
It leaned more on the slow paced horror, and they had a VR version.
Yeah.
Which to this day is like touted as one of the best VR experiences.
No way, serious?
Yeah.
Wow, I gotta check.
It's
that
intense.
out.
I played a little bit of it. It's intense.
Freaking you out.
You're just because. Yeah.
From what I heard.
Yeah.
To 8 now because I forget what it's called. The tagline.
Village.
The Village. Yeah.
I've watched some videos on it. People kind of giving their takes on it, and I have heard from what I've heard that game 8 kind of leans more into how Resident Evil 4 was, and that it was more action based. So they kind of flip flopped back from 7 now to 8, and from what I heard from one video that I seen, that it's almost as if it's a sequel to 4 in a way, or not a sequel, but like a faithful successor recreation of 4.
Interesting.
And that it gives off almost very similar, like it hits very similar story beats. Which I had no idea, but the video that I seen kind of broke it down and kind of compared the two at the same time, which is interesting. To say the least. But as far as them leaning into more action-based or horror-based, I guess it's really a fan-to-fan distinction. You know, you could ask multiple fans, and they probably could give you multiple different opinions on it, or whether or not they like it more of an action game or a horror game. But
and I think that that kind of ties into my second hot take here, and that would be that the remakes that they're coming out with for I guess Resident Evil only for now, that I'm not a big fan. I'm not. I think that I call it whatever you want. I'm very, I guess, original OG on some of the games, and I'm very stubborn on that stance, and I refuse to move away from that. And I love it how it was. You know, if it's not broken, why fix it? Is that the saying? I can't remember. Am I saying that right?
Anyway, it's not broken, why fix it.
Said a little weird there. But yeah, and I feel like with we talked about this off mic, but I think that I'm okay with them definitely beefing up the graphics, but leaving everything the same, including gameplay, including storyline, including fixed camera angles. I love that. That's what made this game the game. You know, and of course this is it's a very popular game, but not, you know, you have people, Chains, you know, that hasn't, you know, that are on the younger side that haven't had an opportunity to play it as is. And yeah, you can go back and play the older ones and stuff like that, but let's be honest here, those are kind of hard to that too. It's not as appealing, but it makes it a little harder sometimes to acquire them or to, you know, get it, especially with next gen. It's a little different. Like you have the emulator, right?
Yeah, so I have emulators on my computer, but to your point, I think like it's, you know, there more and more we're seeing all these remakes, and and we're seeing less of these just like upscaled remasters, because, you know, since those days there have been so many developments in like games that we're seeing all these shifts in like the way we do things that they want to like redo. Like, you know, like if they had the technology they have now, they might have done things differently. But I totally hear your point in that, like, that those elements that they end up changing in some ways are, you know, detracting from like what made it so
exactly
you know, entertaining and immersive.
And it made it immersive, very immersive, because you know, it's easy to be able to see over your shoulder.
Yeah.
See a zombie coming a mile away. They're slow as hell. It's not like they're running at you.
Right.
And it's easy to see them moseying on down, and it makes it almost as more easier to play the game versus it being a fixed camera angle, and you don't know what the hell's going to jump out the window.
Right.
You know, and that was their, you know, bread and butter was shit jumping out the window on you, coming through the vents. You know, stuff like that. That's what made the game so interesting, and that can play into any fixed game that's out there way back when. Dino Crisis was the same way. Any really Capcom game that came out was, I mean, at least on the horror side. I mean,
yeah, even if you look at like Metal Gear Solid 1,
Metal Gear Solid 1
and 2,
and 2,
and 3
and I'm sorry.
before 3 had the Subsistence version that
yeah.
added the third person camera angle, and since then that's kind of like the standard. But yes,
wait, would you call that Subsistence? I thought it was Substance.
Substance was number 2. So they had like,
wait, what?
So Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty had like a re-release later on where they added like all these VR missions and stuff. That was called
fun as hell.
Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. And then Metal Gear Solid 3 did the same thing. Like a year or two later, they released the Subsistence version.
Didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, and they actually that was the first time Metal Gear went online. Yeah. And I put probably hundreds of hours playing Metal Gear Online.
Mr. Arze Poetic is the resident expert at MGS, Metal Gear Solid. You ever have a question or anything, this man is an encyclopedia of Metal Gear Solid and the history and franchise. So we're hoping we can get a movie in our lifetime and or series. Yeah. And my man Ezra can direct it here. Because I'm telling you, this guy will do it right. Do it justice.
They are making a movie.
I know. You told me. I know. So I mean, and you know, that can go back to what we're talking about as well. Yeah. But for the most part, big on my second topic here, my second hot take would definitely be: please stop doing this. I personally feel like it's robbing not only the youth, but just people that have never even touched the game to be able to play it as is. And yes, I get it. You have the tools, now in today's day. But then again, it can definitely go into a lot of other media things, movies, everything else. And to me, I know Silent Hill's coming. Yeah. I did catch a little bit of the, I guess, trailer, and that. I mean, you can't really tell with gameplay or anything like that, but I'm hoping, and my fingers are crossed, that they don't change it too much, because that game right there, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, they're like, to me, they're an inch away from each other as far as my favorite all time, because Silent Hill is you can't even put that into words. That's how creepy, crazy, cool the game was, and you got to just leave it dark like that. Just nowadays, everybody wants the flashiness or the action, or yes, we have the technology, but hey, man, make it so like the what did you say? Graphics, not graphics. Make the not graphics up the
upscale the
environments, everything.
Yeah, textures,
all of that. Focus on that stuff and make it even more scary. Yeah, I mean, if you want, just it's funny seeing like Metal Gear Solid with it being kind of pixelated, or like Resident Evil and stuff, and choppy like that, or Dino Crisis is another very hidden gem that I talked about on games. I think I talked about on games they should bring back. But those games, yes, I get that, bring them back, but don't change the fixed angles and make sure that we leave it that way. So it's almost like a very what's the word? It's a nostalgic thing, I guess you can say, for me. But I feel like that's what made me love video games.
I mean, the other side to it, though, is like,
here we go.
For instance, Chain's experience. Yes. Haven't played the original. Yes. But thoroughly enjoyed the remake.
So, interesting. I'm a little conflicted on the whole remake thing, because, see, I'll say that a part of me does appreciate it, because most of the remasters, whether it be Resident Evil 2, which I played a little bit, or even something like the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, these games are really like technical marvels, just considering what they were able to pull off.
Yeah.
So I think we do have to give them props and their flowers for doing that. And
I like that, flowers.
It's really impressive. I mean, really, especially with Resident Evil 2, just seeing how far we've come, like technologically wise, it's really impressive. But the flip side of that, for me personally, is that I feel as if remaking these games and putting in all that effort to bring back to these older games for the new generation kind of ruins the chance of them making a new IP that's just as influential as their past ones.
Yeah.
They're kind of, I mean, it's a bit of a squishy hot take, but I think they're kind of wasting their time doing these crazy remakes, because while they are impressive, I do commend them for that. I wish they would put that effort into new IPs that now the new generation can latch on to.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's a good point.
The older generation, not saying you guys are old, the older generations have those games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and all those
Where's
great...
mine at now?
Yeah, where all those, and those games are great and fantastic.
Joaquin, what do you think? Joaquin, what do you think?
That's really good take.
And it's like, now it's almost as if they want the new generation to have those same exact experiences.
To
it's
relive
like,
our own.
Yeah, it's like, instead of that, realize that the new generation is coming up. Give them something new, something better, something
I
great.
think what it is too, and that's wow, you drove that real home there. But I think what I want to do is pass that on, and have you guys maybe not run with or just be stuck on what we grew up with, but to use that as kind of a base to where you guys can launch off of I guess you're right. That actually is weird. Man, that's hard to argue that there. Because it's true, because you're right. You guys want to start anew and do your own thing, and whether I
want
understand
new games. And we want new games too.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, as much as we love these games we grew up with, and me, I'm more in the middle, where I think I am a fan of most remakes that come out, and I do like what they do to shift things up. But there are some cases where I'm like, that time and energy, like to do some sort of something else would have been cool, or maybe more wisely used. But it's, again, like the industry, all these projects being multi-million-dollar things, it's like it's hard, to risk, not just like the investment, but also like all these people's livelihood and everything on like something new, when they know like if we redo this, which is a shame, because it all comes down to money in the end. But like I think in a perfect world, we would have let's face it, because game preservation is on life support, and you can't really play a lot of these older games unless you have tools like a computer that can run emulators, or you keep the old hardware and have adapters or displays, because like you can't even hook up, PlayStation 1 doesn't have HDMI. So you need an adapter for that. Jeez. And even then, like, you might get some weird things going on with the signal. It looks better on a CRT TV, all these kinds of things. So like, I think in a perfect world, we get some remasters, because we do want to play these old games again on our current hardware. I think many of us, and I think a lot of people do enjoy going back and, like I'm a more of a historian in that sense, especially when it comes to games and music, where I go back and I listen to 90s shit,
Yes.
And I'm going back and I'm discovering
Taking
people
notes,
I never
baby.
heard about. Never heard about, that were thriving in the mid 90s or whatnot, or 70s even, like, but to my point, like, I think we have so much rich history that to just throw it all away and only focus on new things, I think is not necessarily a good thing. But on the flip side, putting so much energy into this history and not trying new things is also as much of a
double-edged sword for sure.
So I think in a perfect world, we have a balance where we are able to play and preserve these games and this history, and we can go back and I can play Metal Gear Solid 3 the way that it was. Or I would be, if any of the rumors pan out to be true, I would very much love to see Metal Gear Solid 3 with a fresh new like Metal Gear Solid 5 style gameplay.
Really?
I would love that.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's
I didn't expect that. That's crazy.
No, I mean, because
Die Hard right here.
I'm diehard for it, but like to that same degree.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and play Resident Evil 2, the original, and I might just do that. But I'm also very looking forward.
Look out for that video.
Yeah, look out for that. I might be doing the stream for that one.
Hey, that'd be sick.
But I would also likely just follow that up with the remake because being such a big fan of 4, I felt like that remake speaks to me because I loved 4 so much in the gameplay, and I felt it still had that intensity that, I am very much, I see the benefit of doing that remake the way that it was.
Yeah.
But then again, like it's just a really tricky balancing act because we want to see new shit, we want to see new flips and adaptations and remakes, and we want to see just some stuff the way that it was. And again, just to bring back another prime example, Scarface, which came out like 84 or whatever, is a remake. And if we just left that dead in the water and to the original, which was like from the 30s or 40s, I believe. It would be cool, and I'm sure it stands up to the test of time to a certain degree. But also, like, the remake that they did and everything they did with that is just so iconic and so powerful, so influential in its own right that it's almost like a different thing.
And most people don't even know that there was a older version.
Exactly. And so I think, like, it's a really tricky balancing act because you're going to have people that only experience the new thing, and then you're going to have people like myself that want to experience all of it.
Yeah, and I think that's great to want to experience it all, which I feel like today's generation wants that. They want both, which is great. For me, as sad as it may sound, I like it how it was, and I can't see myself playing. The only other newer games, and it's funny to say this, is like when Skyrim remastered, I bought that, I played that, and stuff like that. Like those type of games, the role playing games, like I'll get down with that. But like with franchises like this, like I don't want to touch them. Like like as far as like I don't want to tweak anything graphics wise. Wonderful, let's run it. I would love to see that in whatever new graphics engine they're running now, or whatever software or whatever they're running now. That would be wonderful to see.
You just want
all
those
of that.
Mechanics to be.
I do want the mechanics to stay the same, because for me personally, obviously that's reliving something. That's the old guy in high school, the varsity guy that was like, I used to do that, the Uncle Rico of video games in a sense. But for me, I do like the idea of them coming up, the newer generation coming up with brand new fresh starts. That's what I'm saying is like, don't touch any of this stuff. Leave it alone. It's at this point it's in a museum. Like, leave it alone. Start over. Use that as a template. That's great. You went back and played it either choppy version on the original console or the remastered. But in my own mentally perfect world, it would be leave that alone. Yeah, you guys start new. And you can pull from that, use some of that as like a base to add to, but start a new franchise, so they do have that nostalgic effect to go back and look at, and by this point, the newer generation will have no idea about any of this. Sure. And I mean, who knows, I think we're the last of a dying breed as far as like deep history on some of this stuff. And I mean, to sum up my own personal history, I'm very big on video games, but it's been a very long time since I've actually immersed myself in like a game or a franchise, as far as like offline, away from everybody else. I'm excited for the Dead Space coming out. I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that coming out. That's a remaster.
So that's a remake. That's a full-on remake.
Interesting.
And we'll get into that. Let's get into that, because I do want to get into that, because I think it tags back to some of what you were saying earlier. But
am I contradicting myself here?
A little bit.
Okay.
But side note, just to add to like another example, like of like what I think the perfect world is Final Fantasy VII, in that Final Fantasy VII originally came out on PlayStation 1 and PC like in 97.
Damn.
And to this day, it's like one of my favorite games, and I can, I played it a dozen times. It's like, although I've only beat it like maybe a couple, but it's one of those JRPGs, Japanese RPGs, that just like, is a monumental experience and very influential. Now they came out with an HD remaster that you can play on Steam and like some of the newer consoles and stuff, which is the same exact game, just touched up visuals. But then they also have the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a completely different game, same core story. They're doing lots of new things, and I'm a huge fan of this remake thus far. And I think that basically that's a sort of a having your cake and eating it too moment, and for that franchise, and that you can go back and play the original. You can play the original with updated visuals, or you can go in on this new, fresh take that has a very engaging and fun combat and really improved performances, because they didn't even have voice acting back then. Soundtrack and everything about it is just so like amazing. I love that game. And some people, even the faithful fans, don't like it. You're always going to have divisiveness, but I think that's an example of like, when that money and resources are there and the ability to do all of that, and then of course do new stuff, because to be fair, we're not seeing new IPs. There are new games coming out all the time.
Real quick, IPs, gentlemen.
Oh, sorry.
Come on.
Intellectual properties.
Me and Joaqs are out all the way out.
IPs for those.
Or unless you do.
I was guessing.
Brand new, fresh ideas.
Intellectual properties.
New.
Well, I had a question. On remasters and remakes, what would you price that at? What is the price point for
that's
that?
A good question.
Look at this guy.
I think it's all about that money.
It's all about that money, and I think you got to really assess like the amount of resources that went into it, the demand, and like all these things, because a remake that really does things for the game and took a lot of effort and resources, I'd say that's a full price game. Now a remaster, I think it depends. Like some of these games are really broken. Some of these games don't even have like the source code out there, and they have to rebuild from scratch. Final Fantasy VIII was one that didn't get a remaster for a long time because the source code was like in pieces.
I'm so sorry. Let me dive in real quick to kind of round out what I'm saying. Another part of the whole, leave the old games the way they are. On that same kind of contradicting, me contradicting myself on this, what I would like, well, not really contradicting, but what I would like in the future would be, and hear me out, I think this would be a good idea, is if they did take from that, but they would also explore maybe other characters throughout that universe. I like when they do shit like that. That personally, that makes it exciting for me. Like to know pre-background when they went ahead and did shit. Which one was that? Shoot.
Well, even like you were saying with Resident Evil, like Outbreak and stuff.
So like Outbreak to have, but those characters weren't in the actual like main game, as far as they were just some random people in a bar at one. It was pretty cool how they set that up. Bro, you gotta try that game out.
I will.
Because out of nowhere, the Outbreak is going. It happens. It was in like New York City or Boston, and like right when the Outbreak happened, stuff was going on in Raccoon City, but then in Boston, it's like it hit too. They're all in a bar, security guard, a waitress, a cop. It was awesome, and they're all in the bar. And at this point, you could do online co-op, but it was like early stages of this, so it was kind of a little weird how to play. Anyways, I think that if they explored more in the future into these games, I'd be more open to trying them, even if they changed it a little bit.
Because it's like different, and it's no longer trying to.
But if they built that universe, I'd love. This is going wildly off track, but I love that Marvel does that with their movies, where they explore. They have their characters already lined out there, but then it's cool because so and so's on the Hulk's or Hulk's on Thor's planet, and they like run into each other. Like it's cool. You can dive into that with any other game. I know Star Wars does that with their games too. And I would love for that to be something they listen to and do in the future with,
Yeah.
like Resident Evil. There's only so many times we can cut this up. There's only so many times we can rehash it, redo it, remaster, remake it. It's like, okay, I think right now is now a time where, okay, we start exploring other characters, what were they doing during that outbreak?
Right.
You know, we know what happened in 97
Yes.
or 98. We knew what went down and it happened there. Okay, so what was somebody in California doing at that time when it was
Right.
going on in the East Coast, like where they had their own outbreak happen there, and how was that? What did that look like? And then possibly in the future link it back to the second one. So,
Right.
and to end it on my hot take, I did read the books. They have books out for Resident Evil, which filled in a lot of the gaps. I highly recommend you check them out at your local library or Barnes & Noble or Amazon has them. You read those books if you are, you really want to kind of, I know they have Star Wars books too that fill in a lot of the gaps, but it's cool because they did what they should do with the video games where they have the rest of it filled in a weird way.
And they stand on their own also.
And they stand on their own. That's why I loved Code Veronica X as well.
Yeah.
Because they did that too. They were on a island prison while other shit was popping off in I don't know, wherever Leon was, wherever that is. I don't know, whatever Eastern European country that was. But yeah, so those are my two hot takes.
That's I'm glad you bring that up because that's something I considered before too, and I think it's sort of that happy medium of like, okay, not a fresh new IP, but still something new and exciting.
Yes.
And this is like you can see tons of like canceled ideas and stuff, and one of them was like, for instance, to go back to Metal Gear Solid, of course. There was this I guess project that never came to fruition that would have explored either playing as or being in that period of playing as the boss during World War II, which the boss, for those that don't know, Metal Gear Solid 3 is like Snake's mentor, who was the original Big Boss Snake.
I really
and she was
that
badass, and she had this reputation of being boss, which was like the best code name, and like being the person that really helped the U.S. win World War II with her Cobra unit. And so there was this idea that they were going to make a game that focused on the Cobra unit, who were the villains of Metal Gear Solid 3. But as the heroes in World War II, and with the boss, who then gave birth to Ocelot on the battlefield.
Yeah. I thought that was a great name.
Yeah, but anyways, just to touch on that, like, yes, we want to see more new IPs. We want to see remasters so we can preserve these games and have them accessible. We want to see remakes, but we also want to see like different takes on existing IPs, or like those gaps, those stories that are in the same universe but not necessarily tied to the main thing, or stand on their own. Loosely tied.
Or just even make a reference back to.
Or reference back to. It doesn't have to. That. In order to be able to stand on its own. And so before because I want to talk about this with The Last of Us coming out. Yeah. But before we get on that, just to briefly touch on the Dead Space. Yeah. Very excited, and I think just to mention like how you were saying with the fixed camera angles, adding all this intensity, because you wouldn't know what's going to jump out of where, and you didn't have control over where you were looking.
Oh,
so
exactly.
it was sort of tailored to that experience, and I definitely can vibe with that. I appreciate that, and I would love to experience that for myself. But I feel like Dead Space had that going for it as well, and it was a third-person shooter.
I like that.
That I felt like, if I'm not mistaken, was heavily influenced by Resident Evil 4. Yeah. Because you would be going down the hallway, and then you have one of those I forgot what the necromorphs.
I was gonna say xenomorphs.
Necromorphs, I think, yeah. How about the vent, or you see the shadow,
or you'll see their arms go out first and then climb out. Yeah, dude, that game's intense, bro. Dead Space. If you guys haven't tried it, you should definitely try it.
And so I think it really comes down to the execution, like the fixed camera angles, third person camera angles, all these things are just different tools, and when used correctly, any of them can give you that sort of feeling. And just because we got to Metal Gear Solid 2 recently got a PC mod that enables third person perspectives, And to be honest, this is one where I was like, I might give that a shot, but I feel like I don't know if that would feel quite right, but however, the people that came out with this mod, they reverse engineered the game in order to do it, and they added a feature to toggle it on and off. So I think that's great. But yeah, before we get into The Last of Us, our takes, a couple of us here actually haven't even watched the trailer yet.
Oh.
So why don't we take a brief pause?
Yeah.
Let's watch this trailer.
Oh,
Let's give our fresh takes and sort of go in, because I know that this is also sort of like a potential point of divisiveness here.
Yeah.
I will say that I do feel pretty harshly on this one. So
because
I've seen the trailer and I have my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
And this is for The Last of Us, the adaptation, the HBO Max
HBO adaptation. And just to since it's fresh in my mind and we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
When they said they were going to do a show on this game,
you cringed.
I cringed, but I
yeah.
I really sincerely hoped that they would do I was very open to the idea of them doing it.
Yeah.
I just didn't want them to recreate the game. I wanted them to do backstory, do different characters, kind of what we were talking about here a moment ago.
Yeah.
Like there is a 20-year gap between when the outbreak starts and when the game picks up.
I remember
there's
that.
There's a 20-year gap, if I'm not mistaken, and you have Joel and Tess who have partnered up at this point, but you do not get any of, you're thrown into that relationship, and I would have loved to see
some background
them meeting, that relationship developing, because I really like Tess as a character.
You feel like they jumped it, huh?
You think they should have
I think the story was fine the way as it was, but I felt like that was prime opportunity for
that opening. Let's
do.
They should have expanded the universe.
They should have expanded the universe
I feel you on that.
instead of just
they will.
And maybe they will in some ways, but like what you say about like Resident Evil, Netflix show. But my take on it from the jump is that wasn't the right move. The game itself is already so cinematic that you can literally watch it.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend, we played that together. I played it and she watched when I replayed the remaster.
She was invested in it.
Invested the whole entire time. To this day, it's like one of her favorite games that she ever seen me play.
Because they wrote that so strong, I feel like.
And the performances
the voice act, everything was so money. And like that first, and that's like, it's crazy because when did that come out? How many years ago?
That was like 2013.
So, a handful of years ago, almost a decade ago. And that's still, to me, that first initial taste of it, that first, 30 minutes of the game really blew my mind and was like, so that's what I mean. Like, that's some new shit that they came up with for the newer generation at the time. And I was, I don't know, fucking still in high school when that happened. But we were. No, we had just graduated.
We had just graduated a couple years out.
Yeah. And that right there, I literally was like, I got emotional because I was like, that whole scene was just like, what the hell?
I still tear up.
I know, and it's just like
I'm not gonna lie,
that whole because there was so much passion in that.
Yeah.
In the storyline at that moment, even though the whole game was flawless. In my opinion, it was flawless because there was so much unexpectedness with some of even the gameplay, like the characters and the creatures and shit, the whole apocalyptic thing. I'm holding my breath, so we'll see with the trailer for sure.
We'll see. But just to sing on the high praises, to this day, I think it's one of those like
about the Resident Evil.
A gamer has to. It's like a games you must play. Like that's a game you must play.
Oh hands down,
it's a classic.
The first one at the very least. I am a fan of the second one. A lot of people feel weird about that
honestly,
one.
I didn't.
But I think it's definitely worth playing. I think from a gameplay point, it's way better.
Last of Us 2 was the one that just came out, right?
No, it was like 3 years ago now.
3 was
the one that just came out was
the one where they're
a remake of the first one.
I know that, but the newest one that they made 2. All this, but that they leaked all this stuff about.
Oh yeah.
That was 2, right?
That was part 2.
Yeah.
Where Ellie is grown up and,
Yeah.
and she's with the other girl? Like they're dating or something?
No, well...
They kissed. I thought they kissed.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, I think you're talking about the main...
Well, no, I thought they were together in a relationship. I thought.
Yeah, well, there's another girl that's like the main character.
Oops.
But,
oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
but
I didn't play it. There you go.
You should. I 100% think you should.
Yeah.
I think if you're a fan of the first one, it's worth playing.
Okay.
Now, it's really just, I think, the ending and the final chapter that rubs people the wrong way.
Don't ruin it then.
Yeah.
Then I gotta do that.
From what I basically had the whole game spoiled for me, just being online.
Oh, wonderful.
But
Twitter.
There's just like so many interesting decisions that they made creatively that basically completely fragmented the fan base on whether or not
it's fragmented.
Either it's like some people feel like the whole series has been just tarnished because of the part 2, and then you have other people saying that really part 2 can stand on its merits. Sure, there's some questionable story decisions that they make, but it's still an excellent game. But I mean, really, that
1 is phenomenal.
There's nothing one is phenomenal. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who could say that 1 isn't a certified classic. Put a stamp
certified.
on it. Yeah. It's just when you get to 2, that's when people start kind of.
There's games you definitely check off on the list of gamers list. And I'll go. This is a hot take. We can go at it bar for bar, toe to toe, because there's a list, and whether anybody admits it or not, you can get a couple head nods with it, or a handful majority. But there is a list, and Last of Us, and some of these games we talked about, Metal Gear Solid original, and whether it's I mean, you're gonna have a lot of people split on like the whole franchise, like every game. But 1 classic. Resident Evil 2 classic, Last of Us classic for sure. There's we'll do the list maybe at a later date.
Yeah, that'll be another episode.
Right? That's actually a pretty good idea.
Or recurring, we could always add to the list or edit it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Then we'll do the certified stamp.
We'll do that. But yeah, I mean, Last of Us, man. Let's get into this
trailer.
Because this is gonna be just like Resident Evil. I'm sure another people are gonna hate it. People are gonna love it.
I mean, everyone's gonna have. I feel nowadays with social media and everything, they ruin it, and B, it's like they want their opinion to be final.
Oh yeah, and everybody has a megaphone on the internet.
Oh yeah, and
so it's like these opinions.
That's why when they killed Resident Evil like that so quick, I'm like, dude, you didn't even let it stand for a couple days. And I think I remember we talked about it, and you were like, damn, dude, they canceled
we talked about it. He Three Kings here was singing his praises. Oh, you should check it out. I'm like, really? I saw some weird commentary online. He just, all right, I'll check it out. And then it was like 2 days later, I saw an article. Netflix cancels it, and I was
some pretty decent some decent acting by the actor that did Albert Wesker. I thought he did a pretty good job at it.
Yeah,
I thought the adult versions of his daughters did a good job at it. The kids, when they were teenagers, they go back and forth. That's one thing I do have to. That takes points away from it though. Is the timeline is a little wonky because then they jump from future to past to future to past, and then it's weird. It interchanges. It's odd. A little bit,
but overall,
I personally, as a Resident Evil fan, now you can call me diehard or not, because honestly, a lot of people probably have more history with the game, but I think for playing 3 solid games in the series of 8 games, maybe 4, I'd say 4. I'll hang my hat on 4 of them. I would say that I definitely approve of it. But Last of Us trailer, here we go.
Let's speed it up. We'll be back in a minute. All right. Well,
thoughts,
here we are.
Comments, opinions on the trailer, sir. Ezra, why don't you start us off first? Because I feel like this is going to set the tone here.
And I recommend for anybody listening, go first, watch the trailer first.
Yeah. Yes. Take that break.
Come back.
Yeah. We'll give you 2 minutes.
Because we're fresh off of it.
Yeah.
Our opinions are
This is
ready.
Very hot. This is white hot take right here.
Yeah. Off of the stove.
Arze Poetic, go. What do you think?
Okay, so I am very, very, very skeptical on what they're doing. It's interesting because I mean the actors, like I know Pedro Pascal and Nick Offerman I saw in there.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, big fan.
And so I think like the casting, I'm not too familiar with the others, but like I think the casting might be cool.
It looked pretty spot on.
You know, but like it was just too. It's so hard not to compare it to the original. And again, this goes back to what we were saying before. We would have much preferred to seen like a spin-off or like exploration of the deeper lore that hasn't been explored.
Yeah.
Because as people who played the game, we just can't help but compare shot for shot. You know, like for instance, one thing that stood out to me off the bat was Nick Offerman character, who I read online was playing the role of Bill.
Who's his friend, right?
Yeah, he had that whole area that was like booby trapped.
I remember.
Yeah, so that interaction in the game, the first time you meet him, it's very intense, and it's very like you're actually upside down at one point because you get caught in one of his traps, and it's a very crazy moment. And to see what appeared to be their first interaction, and he's just in a dirt hole looking up at him with it just felt very lackluster. Like, okay, where are the runners and the clickers? Where are the you know? What is this gonna, you know? And again, we're going off of a trailer, so it's really hard to judge.
That was very vague. It wasn't really.
I want to reserve the fact that it's a trailer. I can't really judge it clearly and you know honestly, but just based on that, I felt like certain shots, like the part where they showed the two buildings that were kind of
that
was straight out of the
in
game.
Yeah,
and as a very pillar moment, some stuff does happen in there, but I don't know. It just felt like it could be good. It could be, but
I just hope that they didn't just dumb it down, or not dumb it down, but like strip it of all
of what made it what it is.
What made it truly just amazing and
yeah, and the other and just to wrap up my take, like I think part of what made The Last of Us so impactful is the fact that it is.
Wait, this is my take, not your take.
Oh well, no, we're all going around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, on
this
take on this.
Oh, this
on
take on the trailer. I was like, wait, hold on,
you
hijacked my take, bro. Hold on.
But my take on The Last of Us trailer, since it's relevant to Three Kings' take on you know as far as adaptations go. Is that I feel a lot of what made The Last of Us special is the fact that it was a video game, and there are certain elements that only games can give you, you know, through that interaction, and you know, so when you're having this character dialogue and exploration while you're helping each other and you're actually playing a role, and putting yourself in those shoes in a sense, and you become more attached, I feel, and these explorations, for instance, like Ellie would have these little dialogue moments, and you press the button if you want to like talk to her or respond. And when you do, you feel like even though you're not really doing anything, you're sort of like keeping that conversation going, and then you have these little moments. And or when you're working together, hey, grab the ladder, this and that, you know. You
that was my favorite part.
It was many of those, but you know, and I think it's very hard to get that kind of feeling from a perspective that's so removed as visual media. And yeah, I think they really should have just explored stuff that we hadn't really seen or hadn't seen enough of. And I think it's just going to be a long fest of, okay, well, this is how they did in the regular game, or this in the original, like, or oh, well, that was better in the original, or oh, that was cool, I guess, or you know, and it's just gonna be like that through the whole thing. Well, I'm still gonna watch it, but
well, that's interesting because then it'll be kind of like my hot take here on Resident Evil, like you had touched on, which is gonna be, we'll see how it turns out, you know. Hold your comments until it actually comes out and we watch it. I know that they touched on a couple little small here and there things. They showed a clicker, which was pretty cool. I thought the graphics on that looked looks pretty dope. Other than that, there's only a little bit you could take from it really quick. I know they had the opening scene, which we just talked about.
Yeah, I saw that. Little details like the broken watch.
Yep, stuff like that. So I mean, I'm kind of reserving my opinion until it comes out, obviously, like everybody else probably is. And we'll see.
I mean, for me, I think I'm in the same boat as Ezra in that I'm very skeptical. Well, first, I'd like to note that I do think that the trailer itself was well made. I think it was a good trailer.
It was.
For me, and I think this happens a lot with kind of video game adaptions to like either movies or TV, where it always kind of has that feel of it feels like it's a fan made trailer.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that. It's like, oh man, because I mean, and I guess this is what I'm most worried about, is that it's hard, especially for video games, to capture that same essence that you get, that same experience that you get as playing a video game, as compared to like a movie or TV show, especially with The Last of Us, because again, I did play The Last of Us fully, went through it, think it's great, excellent, a classic game. I really enjoyed it. There are certain moments in that game that are just so amazing, like you had said, Ezra. There's like the upside down scene where you're trapped and then you got hordes of enemies coming at you. There's also one part of the game where you're in kind of like I think it's like a basketball court area of like a high school.
The college, I think it was.
Yeah, and you encounter one of the like this huge fat blob of an enemy for the first time.
Yeah, that was a high school game.
And there's
Bloater.
Yeah. And those times and those games, like those experiences, are so unique and so amazing, and it's one of the only times where it's like you need to experience it how it was, and I think it's almost impossible for a movie or video game to capture that same feeling of where you're in control and you're upside down and you got swarms of enemies, or when you encounter this crazy bloater enemy for the first time, you're stuck in this like basketball court. And it's such a wild experience and such a good time that I think a TV show is going to have a hard time capturing that essence. I mean, just for that instance of when you encounter that bloater in that basketball court. I think it's basketball court.
No, it is.
But there's certain things that I think a TV show cannot capture in that. I remember in that part that bloater can actually kill you in one hit. As if it gets close to you, you're done for. And I think this is also another thing that I praise that game on, is the death sequences. Especially with that bloater scene, when if you get too close, he basically snaps your head in half from the mouth. And I remember going through, and that happened to me a couple of times, and it's so visceral and it's so amazing. It just gives you a rush, and it's just incredible. And it's one of those times where it's only a video game way that you can experience that. And I just, while I'm interested in seeing how they can try to capture those kind of points in those video games, I'm just anxious and worried because I don't, I mean, it's a little extreme, but I don't want to see that this series kind of get tarnished with a bad TV show, and it leaves like a nasty stain on it. And I will say that for the most part, the casting I think is solid. I mean, I will say the only kind of weird thing is Ellie. I know who the actress is. I believe she was in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
But I haven't seen her in anything else. But
based off of that, you're kind of like,
No, I just don't think she looks like the character.
I know, and that's a hard thing, because like they shouldn't necessarily have to, but it's like hard to, especially when you're doing a beat for beat, like this is a recreation. You in a way, it's like it's disjointed. It makes you feel like that was my immediate thing when the first time I saw her. I was like, oh, that's Ellie.
It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, like everybody looks different, and maybe she nails the performance, but just in the context of seeing her with no dialogue, it feels a little off.
And I think for
agree.
Tess, her character, I believe that was her that we've seen kind of glimpses of.
That's
she looked a little too old, a little bit. Again, it's not really there's no confirmation that was test, but I'm assuming so. And the age seems a little off a little bit, but again, it's hard to really criticize them on that specifically because it's like, is it really possible to get an exact person who's basically an exact replica of a video game character? It's probably pretty tough, and you got to go back to like, well,
they can also pull their weight on the performance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are they? I mean, maybe you could find somebody who looks exactly like them, but are they even good actors? They might just be garbage actors, and you're gonna blow this budget on them. So I can't really knock them too hard on that.
Yeah.
But just from the trailer, it's going in with, excitement, but with being a little skeptical at the same time. And I do think that when it does come out, I think it would be interesting if we did a little kind of watch party for it, just to kind of go through and just see how, really get it in its full effect.
Definitely.
To really judge it on its merits.
Yeah, because I think, to your point, I think visual mediums can get close to, like, recreating those feelings or giving you those feelings, but, like, it's different when you're in those shoes and you're playing the game a certain way, and then they just throw something so crazy at you, and you're like, how do I even fight this thing? Exactly. You start running around, you feel the panic, the characters which you're playing as, and then those with you are talking back, try shooting it with this, or and it's like this
you have to
crazy
figure it out
moment.
On the spot.
You're sweating, or when you're upside down and then the controls are suddenly reversed, you go up, you're down, those things. It's
like inverted.
It looks intense, but when you're in that moment, it's like, it's a whole different feeling, and
it really transcends.
It's strange, but we got some breaking news. We just realized
my take on the trailer. First, I'll start off by saying I have not played The Last of Us. Go ahead and bash me if you want. I've heard it's a great game. It looks great. I don't know what happened, but coming from an outsider,
but you have seen like.
Oh, I've seen gameplay. I jumped into like a couple chapters here and there and just played like off the cuff.
Okay.
Kind of like if you were to jump into a season like episode 4.
Right.
Just randomly.
Okay.
But coming from an outsider's perspective, seeing that trailer, I think it looks pretty nice. Yeah. And I actually trust HBO. Speaking of Game of Thrones, and then now they're on House of the Dragon, I think that they have what it takes to execute a good game series. So, but I think it looks good, and hopefully I play the game before it comes out so that I have a better perspective of it. But you mentioned that there was a remastered version of the first one.
Well, technically remake, but yeah, I know, and a lot of people, it's like it's like kind of like a gray area, I guess you could say. But yeah, so there's a PS5 version. I would highly recommend, if you're going in it for the first time, you got a PS5, play the PS5 version. I've seen side-by-side comparisons. It's like, as much as people want to bash on it, saying like the original holds up, which is still very true, when you look at them side by side, it's very impressive. It's like really impressive. And I think if that's going to be the way you experience it, like, definitely take advantage of that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and I kind of think like if it didn't have the Last of Us name attached to it, I probably wouldn't have any of these feelings, because we're not comparing it. Like, I'd probably like, oh, that show looks cool, kind of looks like
course. And that's kind of you outside perspective looking in,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's you said it well, you think it looks good, and
yeah,
I think that's what the part of a business is, to make something look good and have people watch it, which it's easy for people to pick up on that have never played the video games like we have, and would have no idea what it is. It just looks like another version of the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody were to look at it at that perspective, it'd be the Walking Dead 2.0 or something like that.
Right. And I think that there is a space for things like that where, one, I think probably the best video game adaptation to visual media thus far is the Castlevania series. I don't know if any of you guys seen.
No. There's
an anime on Netflix, and it is, as an anime, it holds its own. As an adaptation, It's probably the best video game adaptation that exists. It is just really great story. They do a lot with the characters, and you know, they really just explore that world and build those relationships and like go in on it. And I think that's definitely one way to do it. And you know, of course, there's like more that falls in line what we were hoping for earlier was the cyberpunk anime.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were telling. Yeah, you
definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth the watch. It's only 10 episodes, 20-minute episodes. It's
on
literally
Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like literally in a couple hours you can finish it.
Nice.
But like
I saw a little bit of it though. I did watch it.
It's really good. And I think they did the perfect move in that it's not recreating anything from the original game, but it's set in the same universe. It's canon, and you do see like a couple characters briefly that are in the game. But it's its own story. It stands on its own, and there are these little Easter eggs, and they even added Easter eggs to the game that you can find related to that character.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's what I appreciate the most as somebody, you know, from a video game franchise. Or playing all the games in the franchise or being a diehard fan. Yeah. I love the Easter eggs, which I touched on earlier. That definitely makes it, even if you are loosely basing it off the video game, if you throw a little jabs in there here and there, I appreciate that a lot. And it makes me invested, you know what I mean? And I enjoy, you know, a fresh spin on things as long as it's not straying too far from the source material. Damn it. I should have said it for you. But yeah, so, I mean, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't fall flat. Hopefully they don't cancel it like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, it holds enough weight of its own and they do enough interesting things to make it, you know, fun to watch, because I think there's a lot there. So I think that wraps up, you know, our take on The Last of Us. We'll see
trailer
on the trailer at least. We'll have to revisit it. Watch, you will have to play the first one.
I will. Yeah.
And then maybe we'll do a little watch party and live reaction or something like that. That would be fun.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for hopping in to kick it with us here at the KYWH studio.
Hey, my living room, aka. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. It's been a handful of months before, or since we've gotten together, and you know our schedules conflict. So we're human too. We appreciate you guys and whoever tunes in. We appreciate all our fans. Thank you so much for riding it out with us, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode with our special guests here. Hopefully, full-time casters here with us, Joaqs and Chains. This is their first episode. Let's clap it up. A little golf clap for them. No, none of that. No.
Leave that in.
Please leave that in.
It's a special occasion. Me and Joaqs.
I want to burst any eardrum.
That's fine.
Can we reduce that? Can we be ready? You gotta keep you on your toes, though.
All right. But yeah, let's keep the conversation going. We're definitely all part of a community. If you guys want to hop in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, or shout us out on our own platforms and whatnot.
Let's end it on this note. Yeah. What's everybody playing nowadays? I know we're all kind of jumping in on Call of Duty
2.
Modern Warfare 2. Phenomenal, by the way. We could probably do like a 40-minute segment on that. But I'm currently playing. I'll start it off. I'm T3hreeKings here. Currently playing Modern Warfare 2. We were playing Overwatch 2.
We were. I kind of dragged everybody into that. I thought
it's a good game.
Yeah, I thought altogether we had a great time.
We had a good team. We have a good team.
I know that right now Overwatch is a little controversial with some things that they've done thus far and their business practices. But just as a game standing on its own merits, I think it's a fun experience. But
we had a good time.
Sorry.
I was distracted for a moment there. There's some hand signals going on.
There's some what do they call
side commentary.
Yeah, sorry. What are you playing, Ezra? Besides Modern Warfare 2, because
so besides, of course, we're all playing that. We did have some Overwatch 2. I'd like to do a little more time on that for sure. I got back into Hitman 3.
I saw the stream. By the way, check his live streams out. They're very interesting. You were dying hella times.
yes. And they will be improved. It was the first time I streamed in about 10 months. Yeah. And on a new computer setup, and I had a couple of things dialed in wrong, but I tested it all out. It's going to be smooth sailing, so definitely tune in. I'm playing through the DLC, so I have one more out of the 7 Deadly Sins pack, I believe.
Nice.
And then the Ambrose Island and they actually just did a new November update too, so they're doing monthly updates for that game. I'm so impressed with the development team and how they supported it with free content. Well, I think there might have been like a season pass thing, but at this point, it's just everything is extra. So that now that I'm back streaming, I do want to get back into games that I was streaming because I sort of just hit a hard stop.
That was a hard stop. That was a
so Demon Souls. We're going back into that because I did play a little bit of Elden Ring. But
what happened with Elden Ring? That fell off. Everybody just stopped talking about that. Like, I mean, once you beat it, it's over with. Like, nobody talks about it.
I don't know. I had one of my friends, Phantom. Shout out to Phantom.
Shout out to Phantom. That's right.
I think he said he played it like 9 times. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, he did all the dragons and like all the
The fan base is still pretty strong.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Just with all the From Software games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their fan base is very dedicated.
Okay. I'm just looking out for Starfield, by the way.
Yeah.
More to come on that. I watched a hour-long gameplay video, and I'm fully invested in that. And I'm getting a computer, the whole 9. Arze Poetic here is going to help me out with the tech side of that. Joaqs, are you playing anything besides Call of Duty? Or are you just
Call of Duty?
He was like, that's all I got room for.
Overwatch. I just got the PlayStation 5.
Oh shoot, that's right.
Thank you, Walmart.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Walmart.
That's it. I'm also looking forward to new games. So like the new Tekken, Sons of the Forest, and then that Hogwarts game. That's
going to be
that looks cool.
Yeah, that looks pretty. And that comes out. I want to say that's going to come out pretty close to Starfield. I think because that's supposed to come out in January.
Quarter.
I think the first quarter of
like
2023.
Yeah.
So that's gonna come, man, damn. Because I wanted to play that. That looks. Have you seen the gameplay? On that?
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool. And I'm like, I read like the first book and then half of the second, and that was it. And I watched almost all the movies.
Yeah. See, I
not a big fan, but like I know what's up.
I actually don't really. I'm not really a fan, and partially because I think, I read the first like 3 books and part of the 4th one. I was sort of like, it was at a time when my mom was like, you got to read a book here, read a book. And so it was like sort of forced.
Yeah.
And I think that might have tainted it a little bit and then I only watched like the first 2 movies. I just was not really a fan of that world and franchise. However, seeing the whole game breakdown, everything that goes into it, the exploration and the level of spells and characters and the stories and all that, I actually am excited for the game, and I might change my tune a little bit about that whole universe, but yeah, I'm excited for that. I think was it Hogwarts Legacy or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah, but lots of new games on the horizon. We got the Dead Space remake, we got Callisto Protocol, we got God of War in a couple of days, I think. Tons and tons of stuff. But yeah, keep posted. Arze Poetic, you can catch me on YouTube and Twitch, of course, if not here on the podcast.
That's right, 3 Kings, T3hreeKings, YouTube.com/that. Name I just said. I don't know. I said it weird like that again. I'm dropping the ball on this. Chains, what's up?
Chains. I have no social media footprint, so you can't really find me anywhere.
Hey, that's solid though.
Just
I'm here.
Email me, I guess, if you want more information.
I second that. Joaqs. JOAQS -- not on social media like that. So,
but we do link up and play some Call of Duty. So if anybody's really interested on the PS5 or any console really or PC, reach out to any of our gamer tags. It'll be linked in anything that we put out here. And definitely shoot us an invite, shoot us a request, whatever. We'll gladly love to link up with anybody tuning in here and run some
we'll
domination.
we'll be building this community. I think
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
in the future get on a little Discord server and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know nothing about Discord. I know Chains and Arze Poetic explained slightly, but yeah, I'm down. I'm game for that too as well. I would love to do that. That'd be sweet.
All right.
All right, take it easy, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.